Have you ever wondered why some people seem comfortable with love, while others constantly fear being abandoned? Why some people become emotionally distant the moment a relationship gets too close, and others desperately seek reassurance, even when nothing is wrong? The answer may have less to do with personality than you think. It may begin with something psychologists call attachment styles. The way we connect with others is often shaped long before our first romantic relationship. In fact, the experiences we have early in life can influence how we trust, communicate, handle conflict, and experience intimacy as adults. In this video, you'll discover the 4 main attachment styles, how they develop, how they affect your relationships, and most importantly, whether your attachment style can change. Welcome to Inside Your Mind. Before we begin, subscribe to Inside Your Mind for simple, evidence-based videos about psychology, mental health, neuroscience, and human behavior. If you've ever asked yourself, why do I act this way in relationships? Or why do I keep attracting the same type of people? Then you're in the right place. Let's explore the psychology behind human connection. This video is for educational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or replace professional psychological advice. Imagine being in a relationship where you feel safe expressing your emotions. You trust your partner. You communicate openly. You don't constantly fear being abandoned. And you don't feel the need to push people away when they get too close. This is what psychologists call secure attachment. Secure attachment is considered the healthiest of the 4 main attachment styles. People with this attachment style generally feel comfortable with both closeness and independence. They enjoy meaningful relationships, but they also maintain a healthy sense of self. They don't believe that love requires losing their identity, and they don't see vulnerability as a weakness. Instead, they understand that healthy relationships are built on trust, communication, and mutual respect. When problems arise, as they inevitably do, they're more likely to talk through them rather than avoid them or react impulsively. They can express their needs without becoming overly demanding, and they can listen to their partner without immediately becoming defensive. This doesn't mean people with a secure attachment style never experience jealousy, disappointment, or conflict. They do. The difference is how they respond. Rather than assuming the worst, they tend to approach challenges with curiosity, emotional balance, and a willingness to work together. So, how does someone develop a secure attachment? According to attachment theory, it often begins in early childhood. When caregivers are consistently loving, responsive, and emotionally available, children learn an important lesson. The world is generally safe. People can be trusted. My feelings matter. As they grow older, these beliefs often become the foundation for healthy relationships. Of course, life isn't perfect. Even people with secure attachment experience heartbreak, rejection, and loss. But they usually recover without losing their ability to trust or connect with others. Interestingly, secure attachment isn't something people are simply born with. It's a pattern that can be strengthened throughout life. Healthy friendships, supportive partners, therapy, and positive life experiences can all help someone develop greater emotional security. In other words, secure attachment isn't about having perfect relationships. It's about feeling confident that relationships can survive honesty, vulnerability, and occasional conflict. It's the ability to stay connected without losing yourself. Not everyone grows up feeling this sense of emotional security. For some people, love feels much more uncertain. They may constantly wonder, do they still love me? What if they leave? Why haven't they replied yet? The fear of abandonment can become so powerful that it shapes every relationship they have. Let's explore anxious attachment. Have you ever found yourself constantly wondering, why haven't they texted me back? Are they losing interest? Did I do something wrong? For people with an anxious attachment style, these questions can become a daily emotional battle. Anxious attachment is characterized by a deep fear of rejection, abandonment, or losing the people they care about. More than anything, they crave closeness and emotional connection. But at the same time, they often struggle to believe that the relationship is truly secure. Even when everything seems to be going well, their mind may search for signs that something is wrong. A delayed text message, a shorter conversation, a change in tone, or a canceled plan can quickly trigger feelings of anxiety. Their thoughts may spiral into worst-case scenarios. Maybe they're tired of me. Maybe they're about to leave. Maybe they don't love me anymore. These fears often lead to behaviors intended to seek reassurance. They may send multiple messages, frequently ask if everything is okay, need constant affection, or become extremely sensitive to emotional distance. Ironically, these attempts to feel closer can sometimes overwhelm their partner and create the very distance they fear most. This doesn't happen because they're too emotional. It happens because their nervous system has learned to treat uncertainty as danger. According to attachment theory, anxious attachment often develops when caregivers were loving at times but emotionally unavailable or inconsistent at others. As children, they never knew exactly when comfort would be available. As adults, that uncertainty can become a constant search for reassurance. It's important to understand that people with anxious attachment are not needy by choice. They're often trying to protect themselves from emotional pain. The good news is that attachment styles are not permanent. Through self-awareness, healthy relationships, therapy, and learning emotional regulation skills, people with anxious attachment can develop a greater sense of security. They can learn that love doesn't have to feel unpredictable, and that healthy relationships don't require constant proof that someone isn't going to leave. Real emotional security begins when you stop relying entirely on someone else to calm your fears and start believing that you are worthy of love, even when uncertainty exists. While people with anxious attachment fear getting too little closeness, others fear the exact opposite. They value independence so deeply that emotional intimacy can feel uncomfortable. The closer someone gets, the stronger the urge to pull away. Let's explore avoidant attachment. While some people fear being abandoned, others fear something completely different. They fear becoming too emotionally dependent on someone else. For people with an avoidant attachment style, closeness can sometimes feel uncomfortable, even when they genuinely care about the other person. They often value independence above almost everything else. They prefer solving problems on their own. They rarely ask for help. And they may feel uneasy when someone becomes emotionally close. This doesn't mean they don't experience love, or that they don't want meaningful relationships. In fact, many people with avoidant attachment deeply care about others. They simply learned, often at an early age, that relying on people wasn't always safe or rewarding. As children, they may have grown up with caregivers who were emotionally distant, dismissive, or uncomfortable expressing affection. Instead of learning that emotions would be met with comfort, they learned to suppress them. Over time, independence became a survival strategy. As adults, this can show up in subtle ways. They may avoid talking about feelings, struggle to express vulnerability, feel overwhelmed when a partner wants more emotional closeness, or pull away just as a relationship starts becoming serious. During conflict, they often cope by creating distance rather than seeking connection. They may need time alone to process emotions, while their partner may interpret that distance as rejection. Inside, however, the experience is often very different. Many people with avoidant attachment do have emotional needs. They've simply become experts at hiding them, even from themselves. Researchers believe avoidant attachment develops as the brain adapts to environments where emotional expression was discouraged or ignored. Over time, the nervous system learns, if I don't depend on anyone, I can't be disappointed. While this strategy may provide temporary emotional protection, it can also create loneliness and make deep relationships difficult to maintain. The encouraging news is that avoidant attachment is not a permanent personality trait. Through healthy relationships, therapy, and practicing emotional openness, people can gradually become more comfortable with vulnerability. True independence doesn't mean facing everything alone. It means knowing you can stand on your own while still allowing others to stand beside you. Emotional closeness isn't a loss of freedom. In healthy relationships, it's one of the greatest sources of strength. People with anxious attachment fear being left behind. People with avoidant attachment fear getting too close. But what happens when someone experiences both fears at the same time? Wanting love, but fearing it. Craving connection, yet pulling away the moment it appears. This emotional push and pull is known as fearful-avoidant attachment, also called disorganized attachment. Imagine wanting a close relationship more than anything. But the moment someone gets emotionally close, you instinctively pull away. Then, when they give you space, you desperately want them back. This emotional contradiction is known as fearful-avoidant attachment, also called disorganized attachment. Of all the attachment styles, this is often considered the most emotionally confusing. People with this attachment style experience two powerful and conflicting needs at the same time. They deeply crave love, safety, and emotional closeness. But they also fear being hurt, rejected, betrayed, or abandoned. Their nervous system sends two opposite messages: come closer, get away. This internal conflict can create a painful cycle in relationships. At first, they may become deeply attached and emotionally invested. But as the relationship becomes more intimate, fear begins to grow. They may suddenly withdraw, become emotionally distant, push their partner away, or even end the relationship unexpectedly. Then, once the distance is created, loneliness and fear of abandonment often return. They may regret pulling away and desperately try to reconnect. This pattern can repeat over and over again. Not because they don't care, but because their brain is trying to protect them from emotional pain. According to attachment theory, disorganized attachment is often associated with early experiences where the people who were supposed to provide comfort also became a source of fear, unpredictability, or emotional insecurity. This doesn't necessarily mean there was abuse. Sometimes inconsistent caregiving, emotional neglect, frightening experiences, or unresolved family trauma can contribute to this attachment pattern. As children, they may have learned that love and fear could exist at the same time. As adults, relationships may continue to activate those same conflicting emotions. They often struggle with trust. They may overanalyze their partner's behavior, feel emotionally overwhelmed during conflict, or believe they are somehow too much or not enough. The encouraging news is that healing is absolutely possible. Attachment styles are patterns, not life sentences. Through therapy, self-awareness, emotionally safe relationships, and learning to regulate the nervous system, people can gradually build a more secure way of connecting with others. Healing doesn't happen by eliminating vulnerability. It happens by discovering that vulnerability can exist alongside safety. Little by little, the brain learns a new message. Love doesn't always have to hurt, and closeness doesn't always have to lead to danger. So far, we've explored the four main attachment styles. But an important question remains. Where do these attachment styles actually come from? Are we born with them? Are they shaped by our parents? Or can life experiences change them over time? To answer that, we need to go back to the very beginning. Let's explore how attachment styles develop. One of the biggest misconceptions about attachment styles is that people are simply born with them. But attachment styles aren't personality types. They are patterns. Patterns that develop through our earliest relationships and experiences. The foundation of attachment theory was first proposed by British psychiatrist John Bowlby, who suggested that human beings are biologically wired to seek safety and connection with caregivers. Later, psychologist Mary Ainsworth expanded this research through a series of groundbreaking studies that helped identify different attachment patterns in children. Their work transformed our understanding of how early relationships shape emotional development. During infancy and early childhood, our brains are learning one of life's most important questions. Can I trust other people? Every interaction with a caregiver helps answer that question. When caregivers consistently respond with warmth, comfort, and emotional availability, children begin to develop a sense of security. They learn that their emotions matter, that asking for help is safe, and that relationships can be a source of comfort during difficult moments. But not every child grows up with that experience. Some caregivers may be loving one day and emotionally unavailable the next. Others may unintentionally dismiss emotions, become overwhelmed themselves, or struggle to provide consistent support because of stress, trauma, mental illness, or other life circumstances. In those environments, children don't stop needing connection. Instead, they adapt. Some become hypervigilant, constantly seeking reassurance. Others learn to suppress their emotions and rely only on themselves. And some develop conflicting patterns, wanting closeness while simultaneously fearing it. These adaptations are incredibly intelligent. They help children survive the environment they're growing up in. But the strategies that protect us in childhood don't always serve us well in adulthood. A child who learned that emotions were ignored may grow into an adult who struggles to express vulnerability. A child who experienced unpredictable caregiving may become an adult who constantly fears abandonment. The important thing to remember is this: attachment styles are not about blaming parents. Parenting is influenced by countless factors, including stress, financial pressure, cultural expectations, trauma, and the support systems available to caregivers. Most parents do the best they can with the knowledge and resources they have at the time. Attachment is also shaped by many other experiences throughout life: friendships, romantic relationships, teachers, mentors, significant life events, therapy. Every meaningful relationship has the potential to strengthen or reshape our sense of emotional security. In other words, your past may explain your attachment style, but it does not have to determine your future. The brain remains capable of learning, adapting, and healing throughout life. And that's one of the most hopeful discoveries modern psychology has given us. If attachment styles begin in childhood, do they stay with us forever? Or do they continue shaping the relationships we build as adults? The answer becomes especially clear when we look at romantic relationships, because this is where our attachment patterns often become impossible to ignore. Let's explore attachment styles in romantic relationships. Have you ever noticed that two people can experience the exact same relationship, but interpret it in completely different ways? One partner sees a delayed text message and thinks, they're probably just busy. The other immediately wonders, are they losing interest? Or perhaps one person enjoys spending time together, while the other suddenly feels overwhelmed and needs space. These differences often have less to do with love itself, and more to do with attachment styles. Romantic relationships are where our attachment patterns become most visible. They influence how we communicate, handle conflict, express affection, set boundaries, and respond to emotional closeness. Someone with a secure attachment style generally feels comfortable giving and receiving love. They communicate openly, trust their partner, and don't see conflict as a sign that the relationship is ending. Instead, they view disagreements as opportunities to understand each other better. Someone with an anxious attachment style may need frequent reassurance. They often fear rejection and can become highly sensitive to small changes in their partner's behavior. A delayed reply, a canceled plan, or a quieter than usual conversation can quickly trigger fears of abandonment. Meanwhile, someone with an avoidant attachment style often values independence and emotional distance. They may care deeply about their partner, yet struggle to express vulnerability or feel uncomfortable when the relationship becomes highly emotional. During stressful moments, they may withdraw rather than talk. Then there's fearful-avoidant attachment. These individuals often experience both anxious and avoidant patterns at the same time. They may desperately want intimacy, but become frightened once they receive it. This creates a confusing cycle of moving closer, then pulling away. One important thing to remember is that relationships are shaped by both people. Attachment styles don't exist in isolation. For example, an anxious partner may pursue reassurance, while an avoidant partner pulls away to regain space. The more one partner chases, the more the other withdraws. This pattern is often called the anxious avoidance cycle, and it can leave both people feeling misunderstood and emotionally exhausted. But these patterns are not impossible to change. Healthy communication, emotional awareness, mutual patience, and secure relationships can gradually help both partners feel safer with one another. Love isn't just about finding the right person. It's also about learning how to build emotional safety together. Because the strongest relationships aren't the ones without conflict. They're the ones where both people feel safe enough to work through it together. Romantic relationships aren't the only place where attachment shapes our lives. In fact, attachment begins long before our first relationship. It starts with the bond between a child and their caregiver. Understanding that bond helps explain why attachment styles develop in the first place. Let's explore attachment between parents and children. Before attachment influences our romantic relationships, before it shapes our friendships, before it affects how we trust other people. It begins with one of the most important relationships we'll ever have, the relationship between a child and their caregiver. From the very first months of life, babies depend on adults not only for food and protection, but also for emotional safety. Every time a caregiver responds to a baby's cries with comfort, warmth, and consistency, the child's brain is quietly learning something important. When I need help, someone will be there. These repeated experiences become the foundation of attachment. Children who consistently receive love, comfort, and emotional support are more likely to develop a secure attachment. They learn that emotions are safe to express, that asking for help is okay, and that the people they trust are generally reliable. Because they feel emotionally safe, they're also more confident exploring the world around them. Psychologists sometimes describe caregivers as providing a secure base. The child explores, returns for comfort when needed, then confidently explores again. This cycle helps build both independence and emotional security. But childhood isn't always predictable. Sometimes caregivers are loving but inconsistent. Sometimes they're emotionally unavailable because of stress, depression, illness, trauma, or overwhelming life circumstances. In other situations, children may grow up in environments filled with conflict, unpredictability, or emotional neglect. When this happens, the child's brain adapts. Not because the child is doing something wrong, but because the brain is trying to figure out the safest way to stay connected. These adaptations often become the attachment styles we discussed earlier. What's important to remember is that attachment is not about perfect parenting. No parent responds perfectly all the time. In fact, research suggests that caregivers don't need to be perfect. They simply need to be consistently responsive most of the time. Children are incredibly resilient. Repairing moments of misunderstanding, apologizing after mistakes, and reconnecting emotionally are all healthy parts of development. Attachment is built through thousands of everyday interactions: a hug after a difficult day, listening without judgment, comforting a frightened child, celebrating small victories, being emotionally present. These seemingly ordinary moments shape extraordinary emotional foundations. And even if someone didn't experience this kind of security growing up, it doesn't mean they're destined to struggle forever. Healthy relationships later in life, caring mentors, close friendships, and therapy can all help create new experiences of emotional safety. Because the human brain never completely stops learning how to connect. If attachment styles begin in childhood, does that mean they're permanent? Or is the brain capable of changing the way it connects with others? The answer is one of the most encouraging discoveries in modern psychology. Because no matter how your attachment story began, it doesn't have to end the same way. Let's explore, can attachment styles change? If you've recognized yourself in one of these attachment styles, you might be wondering, does this mean I'll always be this way? The short answer is no. One of the most encouraging discoveries in modern psychology is that attachment styles are not permanent. They're learned patterns. And because they're learned, they can also be reshaped. For many years, psychologists believed attachment styles remained relatively stable throughout life. While our earliest relationships do have a powerful influence, research now shows that the brain continues to adapt through new experiences. This ability is known as neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is the brain's remarkable ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections throughout life. Every healthy relationship, Every emotionally safe conversation, every moment of trust, every act of vulnerability has the potential to strengthen new emotional patterns. Someone with an anxious attachment style can gradually learn that love doesn't require constant reassurance. Someone with an avoidant attachment style can discover that emotional closeness doesn't have to threaten their independence. And someone with a fearful-avoidant attachment style can slowly begin separating love from fear. This kind of change rarely happens overnight. It's usually the result of many small experiences repeated over time. Learning to communicate honestly, setting healthy boundaries, practicing emotional regulation, building relationships with people who are consistent, respectful, and emotionally available. Therapy can also play a major role in this process. Working with a mental health professional provides a safe environment to explore old patterns, understand emotional triggers, and practice healthier ways of connecting. But therapy isn't the only path to growth. Close friendships, supportive romantic partners, caring mentors, even moments of self-reflection can gradually reshape how we experience connection. An important part of healing is recognizing that your attachment style explains certain behaviors, but it does not excuse harmful ones. Growth begins when we become aware of our patterns and take responsibility for changing them. Healing isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming more emotionally flexible, feeling safer with vulnerability, becoming more comfortable with trust, and learning that healthy relationships don't have to repeat the pain of the past. Your childhood may have written the first chapters of your attachment story, but you still have the power to write the chapters that come next. Knowing that attachment styles can change brings up another important question. If these patterns are so influential, why are there still so many misunderstandings about them? Social media is filled with advice about attachment styles, but not all of it is accurate. Let's separate fact from fiction as we explore the most common myths about attachment styles. As attachment theory has become more popular, especially on social media, so have the misconceptions surrounding it. It's common to see people labeling themselves, or others, as anxious, avoidant, or toxic after watching just a few short videos. While attachment theory is a valuable psychological framework, it's often oversimplified. Let's clear up some of the most common myths. Myth number 1. Your attachment style never changes. As we've already discussed, attachment styles are not permanent. They can evolve through healthy relationships, therapy, self-awareness, and new life experiences. The brain is capable of learning new ways to connect throughout life. Myth number 2. One attachment style is good, and the others are bad. Secure attachment is generally associated with healthier relationship patterns, but anxious, avoidant, and fearful-avoidant attachment styles are not character flaws. They are adaptive strategies that often develop to help someone cope with early experiences. They deserve understanding, not judgment. Myth number 3. People with avoidant attachment don't care about others. This couldn't be further from the truth. Many people with avoidant attachment deeply value their relationships. Their challenge isn't a lack of love. It's difficulty feeling safe with emotional vulnerability. Myth number 4. People with anxious attachment are simply too needy. Wanting closeness isn't the problem. The challenge is when fear of abandonment becomes so intense that it creates constant anxiety. Beneath those behaviors is often a deep need for emotional safety, not attention. Myth number 5. You only have one attachment style in every relationship. Attachment isn't always fixed. A person may feel secure with one partner, yet anxious in another relationship, or avoidant in one situation and more secure in another. Relationships are dynamic, and our attachment patterns can be influenced by who we're with and the experiences we share. Myth number 6. Attachment styles only affect romantic relationships. In reality, attachment influences many areas of life. Friendships, family relationships, parenting, work environments, even the way we ask for help or handle conflict. It shapes much more than dating. Perhaps the biggest misunderstanding is believing that attachment theory is meant to place people into boxes. It isn't. Its purpose is to help us better understand ourselves and others. Labels should never become limits. They're simply tools for awareness. Real growth begins when we stop asking, "What's wrong with me?" and start asking, "What experiences shaped me, and what can I learn from them?" That's where lasting change truly begins. Understanding your attachment style is only the beginning. The most important question isn't, "Which attachment style do I have?" It's, "What can I do to build healthier relationships?" Let's finish by exploring practical ways to develop a more secure attachment, regardless of where you're starting today. By now, you may have recognized parts of yourself in one or more attachment styles. Maybe you noticed anxious patterns. Maybe you related to avoidant behaviors. Or perhaps you saw yourself somewhere in between. But here's the most important message of this entire video. Your attachment style is not your destiny. It's simply your starting point. Every healthy relationship begins with one essential skill: self-awareness. You can't change a pattern you don't recognize. The first step is learning to notice your emotional triggers. Ask yourself, what situations make me feel unsafe? When do I start fearing rejection? Why do I pull away when someone gets close? These questions aren't about blaming yourself. They're about understanding yourself. Once you become aware of your patterns, you can begin responding differently. Instead of reacting automatically, you can choose your response. Building secure attachment also means learning to communicate openly. Rather than expecting people to read your mind, practice expressing your feelings honestly and respectfully. Instead of saying nothing, or becoming overwhelmed by emotion, try saying, "I'm feeling anxious right now. I need some reassurance. Can we talk about what's bothering me?" Healthy communication creates emotional safety. Another important step is learning to regulate your emotions without depending entirely on someone else. Your partner can support you, but they can't be responsible for calming every fear or healing every emotional wound. Developing emotional resilience means learning healthy ways to soothe yourself. Deep breathing, mindfulness, journaling, physical activity, therapy, spending time with supportive friends. These habits strengthen your ability to feel safe from within. It's also important to choose relationships that encourage emotional security. Secure relationships are built on consistency, respect, honesty, empathy, healthy boundaries, and mutual effort. Love should not constantly leave you guessing where you stand. Finally, be patient with yourself. Changing lifelong emotional patterns takes time. There will be moments when old fears return. That doesn't mean you've failed. Healing isn't about never feeling anxious again. It's about recovering more quickly, responding more intentionally, and gradually creating healthier ways of connecting with others. Every honest conversation, every healthy boundary, every moment you choose trust instead of fear is another step towards secure attachment. Your past may explain how you learned to connect, but your future is shaped by the choices you make today. And that's what makes change possible. Understanding your attachment style isn't about placing yourself into a category. It's about understanding the experiences that shaped you and realizing that growth is always possible. No matter where your journey began, healthier relationships can be built with awareness, patience, and practice. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to Inside Your Mind for more evidence-based content about psychology, mental health, neuroscience, and human behavior. And tell us in the comments, which attachment style do you relate to the most, and what topic should we explore next? Until next time, take care of your mind.